Okay, folks. I'd like to welcome, I'm Endee, the current fire chief. I'd like to welcome you to the Fort Kent Fire Station. I think all of you have been here before for one reason or another. We hope we have a nice program for you tonight. The storytelling is limited to 5 minutes. No, just kidding. So I'm going to turn this over to Alan Dow, who is going to give us a history up to his time and hopefully a little bit past, and I'll try to go back just before my time, but the chiefs in between are missing tonight. So.
But we've got one assistant, Paul is here. So
yes, we've got representatives from all the eras, so. And if this is very informal, we'll just, anybody wants to say something except Lionel can just jump in anytime.
Okay, I want to thank everybody, all
down.
the firemen especially, and Ed for having us here tonight at Senior College. I know some of you have heard about us, some of you may not have, but I have these nice little leaflets for you if you'd like to know more about us and what we do. And so I'll turn it over to Adam. Thank you.
We're glad to see you all here, and glad to see a lot of older firemen who are here with me. What we're going to do tonight is, this is part of the Senior College's historical events, or whatever you want to call it, Don, for next year is 150 years for the town. It's 100 years for the fire department. So I'm going to start with the beginning of the department, and I'll go towards the trucks and how we got them and that. And I'm going to have stories in between, and if any of you have stories to tell, feel free. And because some of them are going about you, and I'm sure there's going to be some about me. And so the department started in 1919, and Joe Netto, of course, was the first fire chief and the longest one. And Saul Cody was assistant chief, and some of the firemen was Jim Hoyt, Don McClellan, Howard Cousins, Rennie Tardy, and Vinny Audebert, and all they had to work with was hose reels. They were pulled by the firemen. You know, I'm glad we didn't have that. And one of those hose reels was located on Market Street at P.V. Roy's store, and the other one was in the center of town. And I don't know how they got there, but and the water main system was started in 1913. And I was told that the men dug the trenches for the water lines in the winter because the ground was frozen and the sides wouldn't cave in on them. And they burnt tires to thaw out the ground. And that was before the days of OSHA, of course. And the first fire apparatus was a team of horses pulling a wagon with a tank and a few hoses and one or two ladders. And the old firehouse was a stable. And Theodore Chaudet was the keeper and the driver. And one story that I was told was that he upset flipped over the wagon going around the curve in Market Street. And I think it's Ken Ford that told me that. The first fire truck that we purchased was a 1922 Rio, and it was purchased in 1923. And in the winter, the equipment was loaded on a sled and hauled by a team of horses. I never heard that the local roads were opened in the winter. I don't know if they rolled the roads in town or what.
They rolled.
They rolled them?
Not that I remember. My father rolled them.
Yeah, in my notes I got, they may have been rolled because A.J. Cole was the first one to open the roads from Bangor north.
Coal transportation.
Yeah. And that was in the 1930s. Our second truck was a 1936 Chevrolet bought in 1937. And the firemen built a 150-gallon tank and used a portable pump to transfer the water. And you can imagine 150 gallons of water in those days didn't go very far, because of the way the houses were built. The walls they're all out of wood, and the walls were open, and the walls were empty, and they had birch bark or newspaper, wood shaving, sawdust, anything for insulation. One house that I remember that had birch bark was that house has been replaced now. The second house on Station Hill would be the first house after the Doobie Street, or it'd be after Highland, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that was Associates' house, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that had birch bark. I think Reggie lived there for a while. Yeah, he lived there for a while. That had birch bark.
He had the first floor apartment.
Yeah.
Daddy McNair was there. Okay. Way back.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Because in 46, 47, we lived right there on this side of the street, and he owned across the road there.
And one house that had newspaper that I remember was, I said Daigle's farmhouse in Dagle. And if I remember right, the date was 1932.
The date on the newspapers?
Date on the newspaper, yeah.
Fire.
Yeah.
Everybody's fighting fire, no one's reading the newspaper.
Yeah.
When they put the roof on my house this year, they found a newspaper stuck against the top, 1902.
Oh my
Is
God.
that?
Yeah. That's when the first house was there, belonged to the Savages, and that burnt. And then Father Marquis' father built the front part of that house.
And the houses that had cellars, all heated with wood-fired furnaces with the chimneys going up in the middle of the house. And the houses with no cellars had a wooden cook stove in the kitchen. And maybe a wood combination stove, maybe kerosene and wood. I know in our kitchen home it was like that. And houses that had a small cellar had a furnace downstairs with open holes with grates to heat up the house. And how many of you remember standing on the giddy in the morning to warm up? In 1943, a new Chevy was purchased, and the town had appropriated $1,500. And I don't know if this covered the cost of the truck, but this here always puzzled me, because this was the war years, and how come they could get a new truck? Because everything was going to the military. So somebody must have pulled some strings. I was hoping Claude Duval was here. Maybe he could have helped us on that. And the firemen built another 150-gallon tank on that frame. And I don't know what kind of pump it had. And in 1953, the town sold this truck for $500. And in '53, an amount of $4,000 was appropriated in 1952. And the same amount in 1953 for the purchase of a new truck. The new 1953 Ford with a 500-gallon pump and a 750-gallon tank was the next truck. And that we still have.
That's our good truck.
Yeah. And cost of this truck was $8,500. And this was quite an asset, because once the pump was engaged, we could go to a grass fire and just keep moving.
Yeah.
And my first fire, and I wasn't a fireman then, was a grass fire. And it was behind John Dale's on Pleasant Street. I was at Lionel. And we went to fight the fire, and after a while, I get a check for $3. Oh, I wanted to join the fire department. So I asked Lionel I said, how do you get on the fire department anyway?
Who, me?
No, me.
Oh, you will.
No, I know how you get on.
No, I.
See, so I asked Lionel, and Lionel said, well, he said, we're going to have a meeting. He said, we'll discuss that. Come to find out, I don't know if there's a unwritten rule or what. Lionel says, he says, they said that you have to be married to join the fire department. Of course, Lionel married the chief's daughter, so he was all set.
That was his way in.
Yeah. And then, many years later, he told me, he says, you know who set that grass fire? He says, it was me.
I had some pull, but I didn't take any chances.
You wanted to make $3. On this 53 Ford, the pump was right up front, and that gave us trouble. Don Peltz and I, we took that pump apart so many times, and there was no manual, there's no parts or anything for that pump. But we got it going, but when we engaged it, if it jerked so hard, it always break your hand. So we ended up starting the truck, and then we put the pump in gear first, and then we'd start it.
If I remember right, we always had a problem with the siren on that truck.
Yeah,
Oh,
one story, before I want to interrupt you, but you got at Stoliker's fire in Soldier Pond, or Wallagrass, we needed another truck, so he sends Don Peltz, and that's 2 o'clock in the morning, there's nobody around. So we hear Don coming over the hill. Why the hell does he have a siren? Remember that? A siren at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's no traffic, nothing. We're all fighting fire with the other truck, over the hill and down the other one, and all of a sudden, the truck stops and you hear, kicking the ass. That's hooking the wires. The siren was up there.
I think for Jim Peltz, they think of the pair of bolt cutters, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that could be him.
it could be,
He cut the cable for these.
Another story on that truck. We were testing hoses. We were in the elementary school parking lot, testing hoses with that old truck. And that truck had, where we fill it up, it had a cap, just like a gasoline truck, where you could lock it so there'd be no spills. We made sure that was always loose because we needed that. And when we went there, it was locked. So Don Medor and I were running the truck while we were testing the hoses. And all of a sudden we heard a great big bang. We sucked that tank right inside. So we had to have a new tank made. I was the last guy to use this truck at a fire. We had a fire up on St. John Road, and I was hauling water with it. And the water pump on the engine let go. So I had to limp back to the station. And now it's, where'd you say it was, Ed?
Well, we've got it stored off-site because we got no room here. So
It's the antique. The town doesn't want
we
to
just
sell
had a
it.
bunch of work done to it, and it's in operating again, but we keep it dry because it's kept outside.
Oh, yeah.
Water pump, it took us about 8 months to get a water pump, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Waited.
Lord knows where it came from.
What was nice with that truck?
Isn't it on the, did I see it at,
Yeah,
Water
Jason.
Rats?
Up in Wallagrass.
Yeah.
I saw
Oh,
it.
no, that's not, that was, we towed it from Dennis Parody's potato house on Sunsiding Road, but we had to go on the dirt roads because the tires were dragging because the brakes were locked up. So that's as far as we could get till we get a trailer and put it on a trailer and then It went to
That's what I saw.
Jason Peltier's on North Curly Brook, and he got it all fixed up again, so.
Yeah, that pump could be engaged while the truck was running.
But yeah, it ran off the front.
So, yeah, so it was good for grass fires, you had a couple people with hoses and the truck would move.
Yeah.
Other trucks had to be in neutral or
At
fifth
one
gear.
time, there was 2 hose reels, 3/4 inch hose reels on it, 1 inch hose reels on each side.
Yeah, they're still there.
And both of them, because I think we had taken one off.
No, we took one off of 190.
Oh, the line,
Yeah.
Yeah.
controversy there.
In 1957, the town fathers developed a plan with the towns of Wallagrass, New Canada, and St. John that the town of Fort Kent would provide them with better fire protection for a fee using a percentage of their state evaluation. And the evaluation was 0.0005% of their state evaluation. And the fee is paid to the town of Fort Kent yearly. And this helped us buy trucks. The towns paid about, those towns paid us about $18,000. That's a long time ago. Now it must be quite a bit more.
It's, all three together amount to about 30,000 a year. Each one pays right around 10,000 for their assessment by the, as Alan said.
And in addition to that fee, we charged for each truck that went to the fire. I think the first truck was $125, and then we went down to $75 after that, or plus the men's wages.
We used to get more if we went further away, huh?
Yeah.
And the money from this account was only, went into the truck and alarm account. And that money could only be used for purchasing trucks or communication equipment. And in 1965, we had enough money to buy another fire truck. And in the reserve was $14,022.80. And the cost of the truck was $13,272.50 for a new truck. And the unexpended balance is about $750.30. Town of Fort Kent, the taxpayers of Fort Kent did not pay for the truck. It was coming from our outlying towns, so which was a good deal for us. And at this time, same time in that era, town of Fort Kent used to receive $1,600 a year for fire protection for township 16R6 and 16R8, which is
Cross Lake?
east of Slybrook Road,
Oh, okay.
towards Blake Lake,
Yeah,
and towards Square Lake.
yeah.
And we received that for years. Now, there was no way that we could get there. It was impossible for us to get there. And then Senator McBride out of Washburn, I think he was Washburn or Perham, when he was in legislature, he discovered that. So we put the screws to that. We lost that income. Yeah, we had covered all the town of Wallagrass up to the Plaisted town line. Now we only go up to Michaud Hill. Town of Eagle Lake decided that, or Wallagrass decided that Eagle Lake could get to the top of Michaud Hill faster than we could.
No, you know why? Not now. There was a woman that came to the meeting, and she said that she had seen the Fort Kent trucks and they couldn't make that hill. The hill that goes up to Soldier Pond there, they couldn't make the hill, so she wanted the trucks from Eagle Lake to come to there.
So they could get there, but they couldn't get back.
Yeah. That's how they roll.
And we heard stories of how they got to the fire and there was they didn't have enough water. Well, the trucks now they're carrying 2,000 gallons. But the pumps on there, anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500 gallons a minute. So you can, a minute of water, 2 minutes of water, oh, they came there without water.
Trucks went out empty again.
Oh,
Heard
yeah. We heard that often.
Yeah. So if you've got 4 lines running with a, with 90 gallon a minute nozzles, that water doesn't last very long. Not a whole lot of minutes there.
Our next truck, a 1973 International with a hollow body and a 1,000-gallon tank and midship pump. And the cost for that truck was $36,975. And once the pump was started, you couldn't move the truck. Because you were in gear, you couldn't move up there. And this truck came with 2 booster reels. And we took one of them out to make room for, I forget what we put in that second compartment, but we needed room anyway. And this truck, we had all our fireman turnout gear on this truck. And this was a unique system, because wherever the truck went, the men knew that their gear was at the fire. All the other firemen in other departments had carried their gear in their cars, so we had an advantage there. And if the wife had the car, or the guy was in the work truck like Ken with Coles Express, or Albry with, and Val and Luigi with their fuel trucks, or Don Peltzy with his van, their equipment was at the fire, so they could go there. And of course, in those days, our equipment was a helmet, a raincoat, and a pair of boots. And that was it. And if you went to a fire in the wintertime, you didn't bring your long johns, boy, it was cold. Yeah. And we bought our own gloves. And we were getting $3 a fire.
2 after the first hour.
Yeah. It went
$2
down.
for the first hour and after
$2 an hour after.
Yeah.
The good thing we had a Rennie's in town, we could buy cheap shirts to replace the ones that we burned.
2 hours would give us a nice $5 bill. Before taxes.
And that's the same job.
Yeah, we pay tax on it.
Yeah, the turnout gear of today is so much more comfortable, and of course it costs over $1,000 a piece.
Yeah. To outfit a firefighter now, what he's required to wear, not counting the air packs, around $2,700 for each one. Each guy. That's the helmet, there's a hood, the coat, the pants, gloves, and boots. $2,700.
And I imagine it's a lot lighter than what we used to have.
It is. It's
all
thicker,
rubber.
it's, got more protection, and the materials are completely different. There's no rubber. Even the boots are leather we buy now, not rubber.
I remember the first outfit that we had when we got out of the raincoats. It was just like, holy cow, this feels so nice.
Oh, yeah.
Warm.
No, it was a lot better.
And when you go to fire, you wouldn't get wet.
We had a potato house fire at 30 below zero. After the first 3 hours, once the potato house had fallen in and you lost the majority of your heat, you'd stand as close to the fire as you could to keep warm. When you started smelling rubber burning, well, that's when you turned your back to the fire so you couldn't warm back.
And if there was a fire there, we'd usually put the water elsewhere.
Yeah, I remember one potato house in Soldier Pond, Phil said, spray some water over there. No, I need that for
Keeping me
heat.
warm.
It's already gone, right? So
Yeah. In 1987, we bought a new truck for $86,374. And we sold a 1965 truck to Grand Lake Stream. Don Monroe and I brought it down there. We sold it for $10,000 and we delivered it. I had just pulled it out of Daigle Houghton's. It was a flower pot until we had it fixed. So we brought it down to Grand Lake Stream, and that's down in the Indian reservation there, Princeton area. So, and that truck was hard to shift. We all knew how to shift it. So we brought it down there, and Don and I showed them how to operate the pump and that. And so you want us to show you how to drive it? No, there's drivers here. So one guy takes off, and he can't get it out of first gear. So I walked up to him and I said, "He wants to show you how to shift." No, we're all set. I looked at Don and said, "Let's go home."
Electric.
Yeah. And in 1993, we got a Mack military truck from the Forest Service. And Paul Nettle sent Bob Ford with his low bed to Maine Forest Service in Augusta to pick up this truck at no charge. And we, once here in town, we refurbished this truck in Paul's garage again, still at no charge. And we refurbished it for just under $4,000. We built a tank, and we had a portable pump on it, and a few hoses, but it was our forestry truck. That's and of course this truck, we got it from the state. There was something wrong with it. It was a multi-fuel engine truck, and gasoline, there was a carburetor on it and it needed work. So I brought it up to B. Daigle's in Daigle, and the town fathers complained, "How come you're bringing that over there and not at Daigle Houghton's?" Well, I said, "We're saving $10 an hour for labor." So they forgave me. And then, of course, this was a Mack, and a Mack truck, you got to have a bulldog on the hood, and it's got to say Mack on it. So I ordered the bulldog, and I ordered the word Mack. Well, Paul and I are putting Mack on the front. And I don't know how come, but it took us about 2 hours to write 4 letters. Paul says, "Damn good thing it's not a Peterbilt."
If I remember right, though, it's one of the only trucks we had. It was a positive Bravo.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I had to sign our life away, they just put the radios in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this truck, we could go down skidder trails with it, and it was a 6x6, so it was good.
And we never got the sun. Hopes.
Dave Babin was a full-time firehouse keeper. And he started raising his family in the apartment at the old fire station, and later built a house and back. And in 1974, he discussed with the town council the possibility of having vacation time. So he was on call right around the clock. And a day off a week. And this meant that the firemen would have to replace them in shifts. I know Don Tulsi was one, and Lewis, you replaced him.
And Joel, his brother.
Joel replaced him a lot. And
Was in.
yeah. And the men wanted $3 an hour. And the town would only want to pay $2.50 an hour. So, because they hadn't budgeted for the extra expense. And, but the men finally held ground, and they got their $3 an hour. And a new system had to be found for the firehouse keeper, because Dave wasn't allowed to work more than 220 hours a month in a 28-day period. And his new schedule was 60 hours a week. So that we then went to an all-volunteer system, no men at the firehouse. And the trucks were coming out of the firehouse within 2 minutes of the call.
I know why. There was one that was going to get dressed up.
He's got scars on his belly to prove it, too.
Louis used to go there, it'd be below zero,
His underwear.
fair show, you know, we got just a t-shirt. I took pictures of Reggie Medore. Reggie was a dedicated man too. We had a fire down on Frenchville Road, middle of the night, and Reggie took the truck out of the firehouse, and when he came back, he just backed in, and he was dressed just as shorts and a bathrobe, and that was it. So I took his picture and I put that in Valley Times. Once he was back. Our alarm system was a siren on top of the tower at the firehouse, plus our telephone system. I remember if the siren was hooked up again after they lowered the tower. Because they had the town filled in behind the station between that and the blockhouse, and they had to cut the trees that were anchoring that tower. So they lowered it 25 feet.
Before the telephone, there was also a bell.
Fire bell.
Fire bell, yeah. I remember my father had one in the
Oh, yeah.
house. When that thing would go off, it would go off. It was two big things, and that would say, you didn't know where the fire was, you just knew there was a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Alan, there was one of the sirens was at Val Thibodeau's
Yeah, that's
place,
right.
and one was at the Ford Garage.
That's right.
So that's how the firemen knew there was a fire. Everybody in town knew there was a fire too.
Oh, yeah, and everybody followed the fire.
Something else was at Val Thibodeau's, we were burning, shut up. Yeah, I was kind of young, I think, and we had, it was controlled burn, we were burning a building, I don't know, it was a potato house or
Yeah,
whatever.
we opened it up.
So the truck pulls up and nobody was out here. The youngest one here pulled out a 4.5, hook it up to the hydrant, so I hook it up to the hydrant, I have a hose clamp, and I'm turning, and I'm turning, and I'm turning, and I'm turning. About 10 minutes, there's no water coming out. So everybody's on the corner of the truck, you know. They had put a fake hydrant there.
And I think it's still there.
Is it?
Yes.
It was colored red, white, and blue, so.
At Val Thibodeau's house.
He was trying to save on the insurance, because.
Alan, I might stand corrected, but on the alarm system, we had the siren, plus we had the telephone, but at the time that we were using the siren, our phone would ring, and we'd have to, and we'd say, I don't remember what, but we'd always have a password so that the
Dispatcher.
the telephone operators would know to tell us where the fire was.
Yeah, it was a constant ring. Remember
Yeah,
that? It was a
yeah,
constant
yeah,
And
ring.
you'd have to go and ask, yeah, and you'd say,
Or she,
what was it, what was the
No.
damn? Anyway, we had a password, and they'd know that we'd find, they'd tell us.
Before that, when we had the manual telephone with the operators,
Yeah,
we had the fire bell. When the bell would ring, you'd grab your phone,
Exactly.
ring, and then the operator come on, and we'd say,
Yeah.
where's the fire? They'd tell us.
yeah. But
I asked one of the operators once how they knew that it was a fireman that was ringing in. She said, and she told me, we know who you guys are, and we watch, we watch for the light on the board there, and we plug you guys in rather than everybody else. And then we went to the phone.
Continental, we went
Yeah.
to because we had to have private lines.
Yeah,
So that when they'd lift one phone over there, it would ring to us.
Yeah.
And that's when Continental came in and they took the tower off then. that's when we had cut down the tower.
When those phones would ring constantly, they'd ring till you pick it up.
Right.
Yeah, or, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes after it stopped ringing. We left on a Friday afternoon from home, and there was a fire Friday night, and we came in Sunday afternoon, the phone was still ringing. So I called up, so where's the fire? The fire since Friday, okay.
And we used to pick up the phone, it would ring, like you said, continually. We used to pick it up and just listen
Yeah,
to
you're
the
quick.
dispatcher. Because one night, knowing you're going to bed and about 11:30 at night, you're in your best of sleep. So the phone rings, I pick it up, and I listen. I tell Pat where the fire is. I go to the bathroom, go pee, go back to bed. She said, aren't you going to the fire? And I said, what fire? Yeah. I was hired as chief in 1978, and the firemen and I were able to convince the town to buy a Motorola pager system for all our firemen. System cost $9,000. We had the money in our truck and alarm account, so we could do it. And Fort Kent was the first town in the valley to have a pager system for all our firemen. The other towns had some just for their officers, but we had some for all our firemen, so everybody knew where they were going.
You know, but some other towns had more officers than we had firemen.
Yeah. And so this was a pretty unique system for the day, as we could go to the fire, and we still had our phones, so the family knew where we were, and we went to the fire. And it was one very windy evening. We got a fire call, a chimney fire in Soldier Pond. And we just got done that one, and we were on the way back, and we had a chimney fire in Dago, and another one in Secnoy, and one in St. John, all at the same time. Yeah. So we were able to take care of those 5 fires without coming back to the firehouse. And I had a babysitter home. We were lucky at home. If Pat had a meeting or something, and I had to go to a fire, I just called at Netto's next door, and either Doris or the girls would come over and.
Or the boys.
Or the boys, yeah. I'd just say I need a sitter, and I'd leave. One of them would come home, and Pam was home that night, and with the way the phone was ringing all the time, she was so nervous by the time Pat got home. Okay, you remember when Market Street was all lined up with potato houses, and fires were very common in those days, and Don Peltzy and I got on the fire department at the same time in December, and our first fire was Edward DeHarden's potato house, which was the first house right after Susie's warehouse. And that was another cold night. And then after that, a couple days later or something, we had a fire at Martin's Barber Shop, and that was cold. But we were able to save the barber shop, Netto's House of Furniture, because that was all the same building. Oh, and we had an all-night fire on these big fires. The wives would come down to the fire station and cook a chicken stew. The chicken stew employees, and the men would leave the fires and come in shifts to eat. And at other fires,
They bring it to us.
yeah, sometimes we had delivery, yeah. Yeah. And on other fires, we used to eat donuts and cheese and coffee. Now, the
Cheese
cheese,
didn't cost us anything.
the cheese in those days was surplus. So the fire department had plenty of cheese to eat. They've only been 7 fire chiefs since 1919. And Joe Netto was the man who was the first and the longest. And he died at a fire at David Holton's of a heart attack. And then that was in 1963 when he died. Then Paul Netto was next, and he retired in 1969, and then Phil Bouchard took over. And then I took over from Phil in 78. And I served 20 years. I had told Pat, I'll do that for 10 years, and make sure to remind me. And if she did, I guess I wasn't listening. And now, then we had Don Medor and Dave Peltzy, and now Ed. And the boat and motor was purchased by the firemen with money earned through fundraisers. And we used it anytime for rescue. One night, Pat and I are walking down from home down to Bradbury Bridge, and it was getting dark, and I hear voices in the river, and I recognized Val and Lou J's voice. And they had upset, and they were on one of those little islands there just above the bridge. And Val says, he recognized my voice, and I said, hey, you guys need help? And Alan, go get the boat, come get us. This is dark. I go to Lionel, and Lionel's in the store. I tell him the story. I says, you and I, let's go get Luigi and Val. So he has Louise man the store, and we go upriver. Lionel's driving the boat, and I got 2 flashlights in the front, and I'm telling him where to go. And behind the old starch factory there, you got to know where you're going there, because there's a big rock there.
Big trough.
It's where the new bridges today. And you got to know exactly where you're. Anyway, we got up there and we got them off that island and brought them down. But that was one of the jobs we did.
Alan, the money too came for the boat when you had firemen's dance.
Yeah.
We used to go sell ticket $1 a piece, and we'd go up to Baker Lake, because you used to go to Baker Lake too,
Yeah, we.
for fires.
Oh, yeah.
So we used to go house to house, and I was young, I'd go with Blue Moore, and a lot of the places we'd go on Sunday, come in, have a drink, we'd leave there, and I was young then. We'd come back here, we're all crocked. But sell tickets, $1 a piece, and they were all willing to buy a ticket for the dance.
Yeah. And Ken Ford was the guy who could sell the tickets.
Yeah, the most.
Yeah, he'd go up to a guy and here, pay me when you can. Yeah, we used to buy our uniforms with that money that we'd raised, and the flagpole here was bought by the firemen, and that was a $1,800 pole, I think.
The good one's still there.
Oh yeah. And then one year we burnt 25 houses in the floodplain, and HUD paid us $300 a house. And
And OSHA charges $600 a house.
oh yeah, I mean, today you wouldn't be able to do that because we didn't bother taking off roofing or anything. There's one house on River Street. Was that the street? Anyway, we're getting preparing. I mean, this is training. We're preparing it. All of a sudden, some guys are upstairs. Lewis is downstairs and he set fire.
I remember that.
Yeah, the guys came out of the house awful fast. One Sunday we burnt 5 houses. We had a bulldozer from Frank Martin's Sons, and we'd just get it down close to the cellar and we'd bury it right away. We'd use the bulldozer. Morris Baird, he was on the bulldozer, and he was pushing the dirt in.
We burned a house on the Violet Settlement. Well, that's the night we were washing driveways, so a crew split and went to burn the house. Small house. I thought, yeah, we're out of here in an hour or so on training or anything. So we set fire to it. Well, we didn't know it was, it's a maison pièce. There were, do you ever see the people building these houses down south, these barn builders? Well, it was all square timber. Inside, there was siding on the inside, on the outside, and of course, there was boards on the inside. Well, at 3 o'clock in the morning, we were still there.
We're all done.
I know. $3. Maison pièce.
When we started renovating the old firehouse, we, of course, the police station was in there, and they had moved into the new town office. And Dave Babin was the truck driver, part-time dispatcher, and the bailiff. And building had a full cellar with piers, and we needed room for the old Ford, so we had the carpenters tear apart the living room, and we could back in the old Ford in that. I'd line out back in the truck, and then I said, come downstairs with me. And he says, you had me back in a place like this? I mean, the floor would go like this. In the host tower, we had a Pareto house hoist that with a big electric motor. And that was operated by a man on the ground floor. We had one guy upstairs unhooking the hoses. And this had a 1-inch line on there. And the operator had to know what he was doing because that was really fast, a lot better than the system here. Yeah. In 1996, the firemen got a raise. We went from $3 an hour to $4 an hour. In 1989, we hired our first and only female firefighter. Don Burby's daughter, Stacy, joined the fire department. She was with us for a couple of years, and then she went to the Portland Fire Department. Just a couple stories here. My worst fire that I was scared at was the armory fire. They had the National Guard had stored tents in the firing range. There's no windows there or anything. We had a fire there, and there was no flame, but the heat was so intense, and the smoke. We were trained to follow your hose. Dick Bouchard and I were following our hose to get out of it. It was hot. It was really hot. The guys are standing where Cecil is, this distance from us. They said, come out here, come out here. Well, we're here, we can't see a thing. So we follow our hose and we make another great big circle before we can come out the door.
Well, what happened, Lionel, they somehow, for soundproof or something, they had like a canopy. As you walk in, they had a canopy, and that fell while we were inside, so we couldn't find out where the was.
Yeah, you were in the firing range.
Yeah, and there was like a canopy there. Well, that fell. And tried to follow the hose back, and we got, the bells were going off, and I'm going,
Oh, yeah.
so they finally made with a jackhammer or something, made another hole.
We made another door. Yeah.
Made another door.
Came inside the
Another door,
garage.
because I went in the other door underneath that, and that's still,
Inside
the heat
the
had gone out, but it was still.
Yeah, that was a scary thing.
Yeah.
Those are fires you don't tell your spouse.
Another fire we had on Ken Roy lived behind his office on Main Street, where I don't know what's there now.
Yeah, little church.
Yeah.
Oh, that little church there, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There was a building behind there, and we had a chimney fire there. And usually, Reggie went on the trucks for fire supply, for water supply. Val would instruct the men, and for some reason that night, the roles were reversed. And we hooked up in the hydrant next to, next to Subway. And Lewis had the truck, and we for some reason it wasn't connected right, and we had to shut her down. Well, the hydrant was frozen. It was about 30 below. So we had to do something live here. So Lewis put the truck on the hose to slow it down. Don Peltz and I connected this 5-inch line live. I mean, we were drenched. And he said, okay, we're good. Lewis backed off there and that thing let go again. So we had to do that twice. And in order to take off our jackets, we had to take an axe to get the clips off because we were
Roll solid.
solid. Another time, another fire in Dago. I'm going down cellar. I'm the first guy, and I'm going down cellar. Lionel's right behind me. Going. We could see the fire above the furnace. He says, going. And I said, no, there's something, I'm hearing something. He said, no, go in. So finally, 2 or 3 little piglets come out, they were going outside. You know, that's what we were hearing. Lionel trying to push me in there.
I wanted to see if it was safe for me to go in there.
That's your friend, Alan, you gotta remember that.
You know, while you're talking about cellars, we had called in Watergrass. So we went up there, and at the time, this is a long time ago, Val Netto, UJ, Fitz and Peltier, Lou Morneau, these guys were all, I was the young guy of the bunch back then. And Dick Netto. So we went in the house was full of smoke, and there was the chimney was plugged. They had a chimney fire and it plugged up. Well, the smoke is all coming out through the cellar. So one of the guys, I think it was Fitzim, we pulled the trap door so he could get down into the cellar. There was no stairs, it was just a crawl space. So he jumped down into the cellar, and we kept asking him, you know, what do you see? What do you see? I don't see anything, but it smells funny. Well, give me a light. Okay, so we passed him a light, and all of a sudden we were, holy crap, it is crap.
Yeah,
The sewage was running on the floor, and he was down there on his hands and knees. That was one of the times that we experienced something like that. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
There's one time the bells go off with the fire, and I was working at the university. So, you know, it's $3 or $4 a fire, so you want to ride or with somebody or get the truck, and there was always a competition to get the truck. So I pulled down, and Lionel, we were working at the post office at the time, and he pulls in. Door goes up, Lionel gets in. That was a 195, remember the... So I'm on the passenger side. I leave my truck here, so we're going through town. There was a little bit of traffic, so 195 had like a dimmer button for the siren. It wasn't automatic siren. So Lionel's driving, and we get the siren going through town, but after town, that was up in Violet Settlement. There's no traffic, so he lets go of the siren. Thing, this damn thing must be stuck. All the way up to Violet Settlement. Thing must be stuck. Thing must be stuck. So before we get out, I said, Lionel, you didn't know there were two.
There was a button on
each side. I had one on the floor.
But then too, then at that era, it was no siren before 6 and no siren after 6.
Really?
No. After 6 o'clock, no siren, and before 6 o'clock, no siren.
We're coming back to the carpooling. Richard used to live right below me. I lived in Park
You don't
Circle.
have anybody follow.
And so we'd always make a deal. I'd come down, I'd pick him up, or he'd pick me up or whatever. So we had one of these fires, I don't know what time
It was a structure fire in St.
So
John.
I come barrel asking right down Park Circle, and oh, geez, Richard's there. He says, hop in with me. So I pull that across the road, and where the vet place is now.
Well,
Leave my vehicle there, hop in Richard, and off we go.
6 hours later.
6 hours later, I come back and I said, wow, what the heck is going on? My pickup is still smoking. I left it running. I was like, oh. Now we saved gas that night. But my pickup was nice and warm when I got in.
At least you didn't run out of gas.
Tell them about the time when you left the door open.
the time what now?
When we first started, we had big bells that would ring, and then we ring for the operator to find out where the fire was. And about 15 people ringing at one time. So that poor operator, you couldn't get her. So at Cuddyville, they used to have a scaling ring on Market Street, right near Daigle's Buick. He was a fireman. So we came back from the fire, and he said, I was so damn mad I couldn't get a hold of the operator, so he went right to the telephone office, right next door. And he said, I was so mad, he said, I took the telephone and threw it out the window on the snowbank. So Val and I said, he's full of baloney, you know. Val said, let's go see. We went to see, and there it was, the telephone on the bank, and the window's broken.
Let's talk about dedication.
You know, when Alan was talking about, they were digging for the water pipe, you know, and back then, my aunt Delia Michaud that lived across from the Ford Garage now, the house used to be right where the middle of the hospital is. But her husband, when they were digging the trench there to put a water pipe, he got buried alive there for the town of Fort Kent. And you know what she got for that being, her husband got buried? That she could have free water as long as she lived in Fort Kent. She used to sell Stanley. She used to go to house make parties there. She had 2 young daughters, and she never remarried, but that was her husband, which was my grandfather's brother. And my first fire was where Mr. Terrio lives now. We used to call that Strawberry Hill, the top of 1st and 2nd Avenue. And I was 13 years old. There was a bunch of older firemen then. And we used to have those tanks they put on our back. And we're 13 years old. We were very tough. They'd make us bring the tanks all the way up the hill, on top of that hill. That's what we should have. And then we'd go down, pick up another tank, they'd put it on our back, bring it all the way back up there.
Duty, were you there for punishment? Is that what? Were you being punished? Is that why you were there?
No. We enjoyed that. What Alan said though. I got a check for that. Yeah.
Alan talked in the era of no Scott airbag. Right? There was 2 Scott airbags in the truck. Nobody wanted to use them because they passed for sissies. Remember that good? 2 Scott airbags.
You know, the first people trained, I think, on airpacks was Don Mador and Paul Netto and yours truly here, and we gone to a fire school in Orono.
That was the late 80s.
And we had, I don't know, but the Scott airpacks have never been washed, you know, that is, not used a lot. So we came back and we thought we were going to conquer the world. And our first fire, our first structure fire was Jim Marquis' father's house. Remember where that was, near Line Ellis up here?
Yeah.
And it was a cellar fire. And us, 3 of us went, and you can't, somebody said, you can put out a cellar fire, let me know, you're going to make a lot of money. But it was, they were sending water in the cellar, but hitting a wall and the fire was on the other side. Went in and put the fire out. A couple of weeks later, they were moved back into the, so yeah, we really believed in the breathing apparatus.
We were the only town that went to Orono in the valley every spring for training.
But we had fun also.
Oh yeah, we had fun.
What's his name, Jim?
Oh my gosh.
What's his name? He was, he works for...
McKinney.
Jim McKinney?
He works for the county.
That guy had a hand about the size of twice the duties there like this here. And of course, we were in the college rooms over there, because that's where they housed us when we went to training, so. We had gone out and had a few beers, and we were coming back in the hallway, and everybody about ready for bed. And not Jim. Jim was ready, he's got his bottle of wine. And he puts his hand, we're just sitting down on the wall like this, he puts his hand on my shoulder like that, and he says, buddy, you're gonna have a drink with me, aren't you? Yeah, I guess we're gonna have a drink with you.
He was about 6'5" anyway.
Oh, yeah, one of my best friends, they were happy with us, everything else after that. But, it was pretty interesting to me. You probably met him, Dave. He works for Kerry, he's the head of the ambulance service for Kerry.
Oh, Fred Jerry?
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
retired.
it was, he's probably retired.
That was,
But that was training every year.
Yep.
And then he moved to Waterville. I think we had gone to Waterville.
Yeah.
that was 3 times I was scared while I was on the fire department.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
One time was when Don Baker's place burned,
Chimney fell
Wagon
on.
wheel.
and my grandmother used to be a rooming house there, right across from this, what do you call it, swamp box. And Don Baker was on a badoon there, and he said, "Oh, there's somebody up on the 3rd floor." So there was a big porch out front, and there's another fireman, I don't remember who he was. We both of us went up on top of the roof, we didn't have start air. When you were with me, and the front windows blew up,
This is where climbing up the front.
and black smoke started coming out, and we couldn't breathe, so we put our heads in the snow. We were breathing in the snow till the smoke stopped in the front. And I'll tell you, 2 guys that came down the ladder were fast.
Dude, isn't
I
that
thought we were
when you
gonna
came down, you
die.
had one man on your arm, ran out, and the man wasn't there anymore?
Huh?
Wasn't that when you went to get him? And you
Oh,
were coming down the stairs, and all of a sudden, he's not there, he was in a club. Fire's right here, dude.
and then there was another time with Rogers Sports Center. When Rogers Sports Center burned, that place was full of tires down the cellar. And I had a small airbag. And I'd gone all the way to the end, but it was getting too hot. And that's where I'm lucky that I had gone to training to follow my hose. Because if I wouldn't have followed my hose, I'd have died in there. Because we had just learned that to follow your hose to come out. And otherwise than that, I'd have tried to run and we couldn't see where you were because there's no airbag. Then the 3rd time was when they sent us to Madawaska to, in the fire, that house that you set fires to teach you how to use a Scott airbag. And I was big and I had to go through a barrel. And I had to take my Scott airbag and push it through the barrel first. And I started getting panicky and I almost let the Scott airbag go and try to run for a door. If I'd done that, I wouldn't have gone anywhere. And then we used to have a cat at the police station. At the police station, it was next to the firehouse. A big black cat. And the big black cat, it was the meanest thing you've ever seen. He was on top of the radio because it was hot. And everybody would come in, "Oh, nice kitty," and he'd slap him. But anyways, one day the fire truck took off to go up towards St. John. And at Skibbett's filling station, they called up, they said, "Did you guys have a cat?" I said, "Yeah, why?" They said, "When the fire truck went around the corner, the cat came through the air, almost to the pump. We lost our cat for a week, and it came back." And then, Val Thibodeau, when we had a fire, it was Al Ben Bouchard's potato house on Market Street across from Twins. Val was always one of the good ones that came in with coffee, but he'd always put a little shot of vodka in there. Would you bring that up to your mouth, holy Jesus?
Who was with Val and Claire when he was playing the piano while the house was burning?
Second floor, yeah. Val,
Claire and Claire and the house is burning and Val's upstairs playing the piano.
And then we had a Christmas party one time, and there was a chimney fire at Ronnie Daigle's house.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a tall house. And Fitzim was pretty well, we all went to the bar, I mean, everybody used to drink in those days, and Fitzim was feeling no pain. Fitzim went way up on top to the top of that big chimney,
That's not the same one.
and then we hear, "Wahoo!" And just like the fireman you see he came down with his boots like this all the way down that ladder. But we had good times.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the incident that boosted my ego the most is,
One fire I'll never forget is Geomat Trades right in front of Gas and Go here. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was cold, about 40 below zero. So after everything was all done, we shut the water and the hose froze, right? We had to get the town trailer to come and get the hose, a little bed trailer.
Oh, that the Collins, huh?
No, Firman Pencheios.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, it used to be Collins, right in back of Leclerc's now.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's where the Leclerc's are,
Their
yeah.
son was talking.
That was.
Yeah, so in the late 90s, I decided to call it quits. So
About
I
40
gave
below zero.
Alan some of them. So, a week later, by the St. John Valley Times, in the wanted ad, 5 volunteer department, please. They were searching for 5 firemen the week I quit, so Alan, you did a lot
face
of
him.
You used to go out that night to the dance or somewhere, we used to always go out because everybody went to KC on Friday, Saturday night, there was always a dance on Saturday night. You'd go there and you had a nice new jacket, you get called to a fire, you'd get paid $4, and you just had a $20 jacket, it was all full of holes from the
Yeah, I think it was Gimo's fire, we had a fire in the back, and we were all dressed up in uniform.
Yeah, we were at the funeral home.
We were at a funeral home. Yeah, and all dressed up in blue, so everybody goes out there and showing that
The grass fire.
grass fire. Mr. Gimo decided that he wanted to get there really fast, so he hammered down like this, and he was sitting in the mud right there, and I just went, that was it.
I
Took
cried.
care of me from
I
one end to the
cried.
other.
He didn't cry, but I was crying. That was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
No, hey, I was pissed, holy.
I think one of our first fires, we had somebody die was on Endee.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went there.
Yeah.
And we had to take it, he was still sitting on the toilet, he was
Yeah.
burnt on the toilet. We had to carry him off the toilet.
Sunday afternoon.
On Market Street, right next to Twins.
Right next to it.
Ed, you wanna, you better.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit. I don't know if that's a tough act to follow. So, I'm very proud to have my picture hanging with these other great fire chiefs, I can tell you that. And he's one of them. Some of you probably wonder how a guy that moved here in '07 from Connecticut and was in the fire department 2 or 3 years gets to be the fire chief. Well, in Connecticut, my other life, I was in 3 fire departments. Well, 1 was in Florida, but 2 were in Connecticut. 1962, before you, I joined a volunteer fire department right where I lived. I was 3rd generation. And my grandfather and father both had been members. And I couldn't wait to get in that fire department. I used to stand out in front of the house, and if my father would be coming from work, I'd flag him down so I could go to the fire. So it was in my blood. And 1962 that was, and I stayed in the volunteer fire department, but then I went to the Hartford, Connecticut Fire Department in 1971. And I retired out of there as assistant chief 28 years later. A lot of fires, big fire department, 550 guys, 14 stations. But I always consider my roots to be the volunteer. So when I came up here, I pretty much, when I was in the Navy, I spent 6 years in the Navy. I was stationed in Jacksonville, Florida. I joined the Duval County Fire Department, a little station called West Connect. And didn't do too much with that because being in the Navy and everything, it was kind of hard. But so anyway, I moved up here. Some of the guys that I got to know me, Rudy and Curtis Socia, they said, "Why'd you join the fire department?" I said, "No, I'm too old for that. I've already done all that, you know." So they worked on me a little bit. In 2009, I joined, and I was happy. I'm back where I wanted to be, you know. So then I was just happy to be a fireman too. But Dennis Parity stepped down, so that opened up a captain's spot, and Dave Pelletier appointed me. And then about a year later, Dave said, "I'm quitting." So I told all the other officers, I said, "Well, I'm the new guy on the block here. You guys, you got first pick." Every one of them said, no, we can't do it. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. So here I am in 2012. I'm the fire chief, March 1st. What happens on March 25th? Meadows fire. Oh my gosh. So here I go, tooling down Main Street, you know, and I know where I'm going and everything, and on the radio's going, some of the guys are over there, and there was supposed to be a fire at the rear of the store. So I'm picturing Dave's place, you know, the flooring place is burning. But then as I get closer to town, I can see a glow. I said, you got something here. So, and a couple of guys were over there, they're yelling on the radio, said, shh, just be quiet and go to work, you know, everything will be okay. So I got there, and I asked for a report from the guys at the rear of the building. I'm standing in front of Sears, right in front of the building, and I'm gonna take command like they're supposed to. And it hurts me not to be able to go in, but the chief's supposed to be directing stuff, so. Next report is, we can't do anything because the power lines are down back here. Oh gosh, so let's get Maine Public then, we get Maine Public over there. So the guys just have to stand around because it's too dangerous, because the wires are jumping around and arcing and everything. So after they got, and they came pretty quick, whoever was on call came, I don't know how many minutes it took, but meanwhile, that fire now is spreading all across the back of those buildings, all the way down toward the China Garden. So all of them are going in the back now. But the strategy, good firefighting tactics means you don't want to push the fire in, so you go in from the front. So I get on the radio and I say, the tactic will be, the strategy is we're going to go in the front door and push the fire out. I no longer get those words out of my mouth, and all the windows blew out of the furniture store, and the fire came out about 30 feet and went about 50 feet high. And I'm standing in front of Sears, and I can't hold my radio because it's so hot there, you know. And I look behind me and the canopy's starting to go and everything else. So when I first got there, I had called for Claire, and I ended up calling for Eagle Lake, North Lakes Fire, which is Garrett, and Madawaska, St. Agathe, and Frenchville, and St. Francois, besides from across. And as everybody's familiar with that fire, I'm sure, it just took off. And the only place that, the buildings were so close, like 2 feet between them, the only place that we could get in between the buildings and the next one was by the China Garden. There was a driveway there. So we said, if nothing else, we're not going to let that China Garden burn. So we tried interior stuff, it didn't work. In the Acadia Medical Supply, we went in and pulled all the cylinders out we could ahead of time. But the next thing you know, pow, they're going off and shooting across the street. So we had people on the roof of Sears watching for firebrands, and to our favor that night there was no wind coming off the river, so the firebrands were just going straight up. The next day, we were there all night, and the next day the wind switched like it usually does coming off the river, and if it had been that way the night before, we'd have had a tough time saving the other side of Main Street, but we did. And I felt bad that we lost all those buildings, but I felt good that we made that stop where we did. So that was my indoctrination. So I said, I've been the fire chief for 20 days, and here we go. I burn half the town down. Some people might not like that, you know.
Well, the one of the toughest buildings that there was in town.
Oh, yeah.
We've actually, well, it was my grandfather's place.
Yeah.
I played in the attic, I played in all the little cubby holes, and
Well, I'd been in the building. Arms had given me a tour, Pat, one of them had given me a tour of the building. I want to see. And I got upstairs and I looked around, I said, boys, if we ever get this, you know, I'm not going to jeopardize any firemen for this. It's just going to have to be a surround and drown, you know. But, and it was, eventually. But and then we're hooked to a couple of hydrants there. And Mark Susi comes up to me, he says, you know, we got a problem. I said, what's that? He says, well, we only got so much water. And I wasn't too familiar with that. Well, the reservoir on top of the ski tow holds 750,000 gallons of water. He says, but during this pumping cycle, they don't pump it all the time. It goes up and then it comes down to a certain point. Well, it was at the low point. So we were starting out with a little disadvantage then. And the water can only be replenished at 750 gallons a minute. Well, we were drawing like 3,000 out of the hydrants. You know? So that thing was just dropping like a rock. So Mark standing next to me says, you know, you're going to have to do something different because you're just going to run out of water. So I said, well, let me know when I'm close, you know. But meanwhile, we set up tanker shuttles and everything else. But where do we usually fill the tankers? Out of the hydrants. So we had to come down here and set up a draft at the boat landing so we could fill out of the river. And luckily, we could, and it was March, but there was no ice flowing. And we had 7 pumps, portable pumps, over the dike that night, drawn out of the river. And we did have quite a bit of water, but it was just, there wasn't enough water available anywhere to put that amount of fire out. So anyway, I said, well, we got through that one. So same year, on October 2nd, I get a phone call from the PD. Hey, we just got a call that there's a person trapped in a vehicle on the Millionaire Road. I said, where the
millionaire road. He said, well, you gotta go through the gate in Allagash, and then you keep going on the Depot Road, and somewhere out there, this guy's trapped. I said, oh, great. Well, it turns out the accident happened on this Millionaire Road, which is off the Depot Road, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We get the call at 6. So we come down here, we get organized. I'm asking everybody, anybody know what Millionaire Road is? No. So we take, the ambulance was going, my pickup, we had a Pierce engine then that had a crew cab in the rescue. And we take off. So before I get out of radio range, it was, hey, see if you can get a forest ranger or a game warden up there to find this thing, and then find us, and we'll talk to him on the statewide channel when we get up there. So we did, but we left at 6 and got up there. It's 85 miles we got there, one way. And we got there at 8 o'clock. The guy was trapped, 2 broken arms and 2 broken legs in a little Subaru. What had happened was he was a bird hunter with 2 other guys. He was sitting in the passenger seat, and the other guys jumped out to chase some birds, and he started rolling down the hill. And at the end, the road went to the left. Well, he went straight and nose dived right into the thing. So he was hurting. So we tore the whole side of the car off and got him out. And boy, was he glad to see us. But
It's a long ways to go.
yeah, but 85 miles one way. So we got back and got all cleaned up, but I went home, and the guy just said, man, you didn't get a flat tire going on all those roads with the shale and everything? I said, no, I didn't get a flat tire. So the next morning, about 8 o'clock, the pager goes off, Valley Auto. So I jump in my pickup and the alarm goes off, flat tire. Well, it said 15 pounds. I said, I don't care, boom, I'm going. And I took off with the pickup, and I'm watching it, it's still on the wheel, so I didn't care if it was going to be on there or not. So I got down, of course, everybody knows what happened there. The place was going like crazy when we first got here, so here I go again, calling D2A. This time we had Baker Brook and Baker Lake, St. Francois and Clare from Canada, and then over here we had all those other departments again. And that was gone. We went in with a line, and I yanked them right out, but it just said, and behind the building, the primary wires that ran on Elm Street were all starting to smoke and drop, and our guys were almost under it. The duties yelling to me on the radio, your guys, I know, I'm getting them out of there, because, they would have been electrocuted for sure if those wires dropped.
There's a fire in St. John the week before, I think, too, that struck a fire around at the same time.
Yeah, well, but that was 2000, that was my first year, so I said, when December came, I said, I think I made it through the first year, but by the skin of my teeth,
But excavates when that burned, it was all add-ons, and the fire was running right between the roofs and the...
Oh, yeah, it had a tremendous, I saw the videos from the cameras at Daigle Oil, the gas station across the street, way long before anybody ever noticed it or called it in. The smoke was wisping out of the eaves from that place, but it was so light, so the thing had been burning a while before anybody noticed it,
And those old buildings were all add-ons and double roofs.
But again,
no chance to work whatsoever.
I've been in those kind of things, and it's just, you just can't, there's not, everybody was out. Then, the interesting part, the next day, of course, it was rubble, and Carl was there. He says, geez, I wonder if we can get in that safe. Well, we opened up that safe that was sitting there, it was in the walk-in safe, and it was just like nothing had ever happened. It was clean as a whistle in there, He's so thankful, because the records, a lot of the stuff was in there, the financial stuff and everything, so.
Because Carl and I were pulling out the computers, the ceiling was falling down.
Oh, yeah.
I said, Carl, people are dishonest, they're going to say they don't owe you, let's pull the computers out.
Yeah, so when we got this, in 2010, we got a new rescue truck, and this was bought from the so-called truck and alarm account, and I say so-called because the council changed that later, The roof on this building came out of that account. I fought like the devil to not have them do it, wrote letters and went down there and jumped up and down, and it was a split vote on the council, but we lost that when they took the money out of that account. Plus, the money, that's a very good account, we still have it, and we still use it for stuff, but the price of fire trucks has gone up this way, and that account has kind of stayed here. So like a new pumper that we have out there, it's $500,000. And you can't possibly, there aren't enough towns around us to charge to get that kind of money,
But anyway, that was 2010. We also, I got a call from one of my buddy fire chiefs in Connecticut, says, hey, how'd you like a pumper? Well, you know, a little careful. What do you mean, how would I like one? He said, we've got a 1985 Pierce, crew cab, 1,500 gallon minute pump, and would you be interested in that? I said, well, for how much? Oh, we're going to give it to you. And I wasn't the fire chief then, I was just getting the call, so I had to go see Dave about that. But he says, no, we'll give it to you. All I got to do is get it up there. So I went to Dave, a bunch of us talked about it, and we said, yeah, we'd be interested in that. Aluminum body, aluminum cap, you know, no rust or anything on it. And so we ended up getting a truck up here for $600. And then we had it relettered and put we put tires on it, I think. But other than that, it was fine. And we had that up until 2015. And then we used to be engine 6 here, the 87 International. We sold Eagle Lake for like, anybody live in Eagle Lake? For like 30-some thousand bucks. So we ended up making money, and that money went in the truck alarm account. So that was 2010. And then 2011, we got a grant for put some dry hydrants in here, and that was for $3,000. And we also got evaluated by the ISO, that's the insurance people that come in. And before that year, we were a class 7 or a class 8, depending on, if you're within 5 miles of a fire station, you got to the class 7. We went down to a class 5, which meant there was a savings on insurance rates. And we're going to be doing that again because we came very close to being a 4 then. And now we've got a lot more stuff that we didn't have then. So, as I said, in 2012, I got appointed. Alan, don't hit me now, please. We acquired a ladder truck. And the reason, to me, this was a very basic tool of the fire service. I was used to working with those things. In town here, we've got some pretty big buildings, and I know we've got long ladders that you can throw by hand, but the safest way to get people or to work on a chimney fire, if you can do it, is off a ladder truck. And we have the kind that's called a tower ladder that has a bucket on the end. And you get 2 or 3 guys in there, you take all the stuff you need, you go, whoop, you can operate, 2 can operate out of the bucket easily, maybe 3. And when you get done, you come down, boom, you're gone. But Alan would be back at the firehouse with everything put away by then. Anyway, that's how that worked out. And the one we have came out of Texas. It's an older one because, and we used the truck and alarm account to buy that. And it's a 1990, it's a sub, and it's all stainless steel and aluminum, so it's good. We did have to have some work done for it, but we were able to get the whole project done for about $125,000. That's new tires, rebuild the engine, everything. A new one of those today is $1 million, and some of them are over $1 million. So we're not running out to buy a new one of those right away. We got a grant that year for $3,000 to put in dry hydrants, and that was the year of the fires that we just talked about. 2013, our operating budget went out a little bit, and we acquired a snowmobile and a trailer to do trail rescues. We had inherited a rescue boggin type thing from the ambulance service. They wanted to give it up. I said, no, somebody has to do this, so we'll do it. And in case when somebody's hurt on the sled or on the trails out there, you got to be able to get them so that you bring it to the ambulance. And there's all kinds of ways you could do it, but I think we're in the rescue business, we should be doing it. So we got that trailer and a snow sled. What we used to have to do was we had that snow boggin, we'd go somewhere and then try to find somebody with a sled to pull it. And if it happened to be on a trail access point where somebody lived near there, or one of the firefighters happened to have a sled in the back of his pickup, that was good. But we couldn't depend on that, so we went around and got some donations, and we used some of that truck and alarm money. We got a snow sled, a used one, that we got a great deal on, and we got a snow sled trailer. But we still had the old rescue boggin. In 2014, we got what's called a snowbalance. It's an enclosed pod that can be towed behind the snowmobile. And it's got lights in it, it's heated, and it'll be towed by the snow sled in the winter, and we put wheels on it in the summer and tow it with a 4-wheeler. That was the PD's 4-wheeler, so we keep that here, both of them. And we got that through donations. We went around to a lot of the businesses in town and asked them if they'd explain what we were trying to do. And we got enough money to buy that, and it was about $7,000 for that thing. And then we have used it. on a number of occasions on the trails, and it makes a huge difference. I don't know how we would have got these people out otherwise. There was no way for anybody to be transported out of there. That year, which was 2014, we had several serious fires, including the packing shed. That was a long night also. It was about 10 below that night. Everything was freezing up, and so we had a long night, and a lot of mutual aid for that fire also. And we had several fires with that year, serious ones. We had a garage fire in North Curly Brook. The whole garage was going like a match head almost, 10 feet from the house. So we didn't put a drop of water on that garage, put it all in the house. The garage was gone. The house was fine. Just a little melted siding. 2015, we got a $3,000 FEMA grant, training grant, so that helped with our training. We've been maintaining the firefighter 1 and 2 level of training for all the firefighters here. We've been able to get that training locally. It's been in either North Lakes Fire in Cross Lake or in Caribou or Madawaska or one of those places where they get a group from different departments. And all our firefighters are trained at that level now. And we did get another Forest Service grant that year when we bought firefighting foam and forest firefighting equipment. And that's 2015, and that's when we acquired our 2015 Sutphen pumper that replaced that 1985 Pierce that had been donated. But that one is not a grant. That we're paying a little so much each year. And we can't possibly pay for something like that on a truck and alarm, but $20,000 a year comes out of that truck and alarm towards the payment on that. So we're doing okay with that. In 2015, we received a SHAPE award. It's a SHAPE stands for Safety and Health Award for Public Employers. What that means is we've been inspected by the Bureau of Labor for compliance to all safety aspects of the fire service, including all the paperwork and documentation and training that's required. So now, as long as we have that certification, the Department of Labor can't knock on your door and come in and start looking for issues, which they've done in the past and the town's been fined for. We're the only department in the town of Fort Kent that has that certification right now. We had it renewed in 2017. It was 2 years the first issue, and now it's for 4 years because we were perfect again. We're not perfect, but in their eyes we are, you know. The other thing about that is that in the state of Maine there are 600 and some fire departments. There's only about 30 that are SHAPE certified. So we're in a unique club there too. It took a lot of work to get us there, and everybody pitched in, all the officers and firefighters, and we made sure all our I's were dotted and T's were crossed and everything, but we got it. And we're very proud of that. In 2016, we received a $127,000 FEMA grant, and that replaced all our Scout air packs. So more than replaced. We had about 10, I think, at that time. We got 18 out there now, all brand new in that year, and 36 bottles. So we got 2 bottles for each air pack. And we're pretty proud of that. We got another $2,000 Forest Service grant that year. And we also installed gear racks, which you'll see out there. Alan was talking about how the gear used to be carried on the rig and the guys could show up and they know it was there. But my biggest fear was, what if that truck doesn't start? Then all the gear is going to be sitting here and the guys are going to be out there. Plus, there's a huge push in the country, the fire service, about cancer. And part of the problem is the gear has soot on it, it's carrying a carcinogen. So the push is to have the gear out where it's aired out, not cooped up anywhere. Carrying in a bag in your truck is no good either. So anyway, the gear's all out here now. So what does that mean? Well, pardon?
Everybody's got to come here?
Yeah, but the cabs, the new engine can carry 8 people, and 5 of those seats have the air pack built right in. So, yes, out the door takes a little longer because the guys got to come here, but when they arrive, they just step out of the seat, they're all geared up, all suited up, they're ready to go to work, boom. No getting dressed at the scene. So you can play with the numbers and the times and all that, and now we don't have private vehicles, which could have, has been an issue. 2017, we got another grant for $125,000, a FEMA grant, and this provided us with a smaller utility vehicle, which we're calling Squad 1, which in the fire service is a multi-use vehicle. It's got, you'll see it, it's got it's a F550 4-door pickup, and it's got 300 gallons of water and a pump in the back that's hooked up to the tank and with a reel and all ready to go. And then it carries a portable pump that you can go in a brook or something. And this is designed to go on woods roads, not really off-road, but stuff where we can't set up the big engines. They just aren't designed to go in these tight woods roads or where there's a lot of weight involved in these trucks they can sink in. So we just got that, it's in service, and that's also used to tow our rescue trailer with the snow sled in it, and it's also used to tow our boat. Prior to this, we had to have somebody's pickup hook up to one of those, and then we've got plenty of pickups, that's not an issue, but I think if something happened, the insurance could get a little dicey. So now we got an emergency vehicle towing our stuff, and we're all covered with that. We got a Maine municipal grant that year for $2,000 to help buy our turnout gear. Remember I said it's like $2,700 a set? Maybe it's closer to $3 now. So we get that grant almost every year. We got a Stephen and Tabitha King grant for $25,000 to purchase a rescue boat. And what happened was we had priced that rescue boat out, and after back and forth it had come out to like $36,000. So we got the 25. So we were kind of wondering what we were going to do. But one of our captains, Zach, was in, called the dealer, got talking to a fireman. He said, "Oh, we can do better than that." And he came up with a price of $26,000. So into the truck alarm account, we went for a little bit more money, and we replaced our boat. And then we turned around and sold the old one for like $3,000. So we did very well with that one. And that's the year in 2017 that we got our SHAPE award renewed too. This year, we were putting that squad in service, and that's it. I could talk a lot about some more fires we had, but I gave you the highlights on the big ones, and I know we're getting, not pressed, but we're getting near the hour here, so does anybody have any questions of me or have any?
You want to mention that you can fill up your air bottles here?
Oh, yeah, I forgot all about that, thank you. Yeah, what year was that?
2000.
No,
2004 maybe?
no.
It might have been, yeah. It was just before I got here, so that was 2006.
Let's say 2004, 5 maybe.
Well, anyway, yes, we have a compressor and filling station, it's called, so we can fill our tanks, our air pack tanks, right out here in the station, and we fill for other departments as well. But most of the other departments have something, not all of them. And that's a great thing, because we come back from a fire, or during the fire, we send bottles back here and send them up. We don't have to send them out.
We had to go in my walls.
Yeah.
My job.
Right during the fire.
During the fire, yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Our bottles nowadays are 1 hour bottles.
I'd say we got mostly 1 hour bottles now.
well, they're technically 45 minutes, but they're 5,500 pound. The old ones were 4,500. So the bottle has as much air, but slightly smaller in size.
They're also carbon fiber instead of steel.
Yeah.
So about a third of the weight.
But there's a strange thing that goes on with those bottles. After 15 years, they have to be taken out of service. In Europe, the very same bottle is certified for 30 years. So I don't know why somebody's playing games with those numbers, but that's throughout the United States, that's the way it is. So, we can have a show and tell out in the other room now. And, Okay, folks, if you want to listen up, I'll give you a little rundown on each one of these rigs. This is our rescue truck that was bought in 2010. We're one of the only departments in the valley, and actually in the northern part of the county that has a dedicated rescue truck. And this is where we carry all our rescue equipment, including the Jaws of Life stuff. You want to pull the back out there? And This is how we access our Jaws of Life equipment right here. But in the other compartments are also carried other types of rescue equipment, airbags, and we have Stokes basket, we have confined space. We're now a confined space certified fire department, so that was quite a deal. There's all types of special equipment that's carried for confined space, and each year we have to do a recertification training on that to stay certified for confined space. Confined space is, you wouldn't think everything, where would you have confined space here? Well, just going at the university to clean the boilers, they have to go in. That's considered confined space. The highway and water departments, every time they go in a manhole, that's considered confined space. For us to be able to go rescue them, we have to be certified. If there's somebody laying at the bottom of that area, we have to be certified and dressed up and protected in a certain way so we can go rescue them. Otherwise, we could become part of the problem. And that's the problem with a lot of rescue stuff. So we're very proud of this. This is our newest engine. It's a 2015. It's a 1,500 gallon a minute pump. It carries 750 gallons of water. And as you can see with the crew cab, there are 8 seats in there. So when we pull out of here with a crew, we've got a good crew to go to work with at a fire. That's only a start. But it's the primary attack engine. It's got lines that can be pulled off from the middle, and there's a line in the front bumper that can be pulled off. This is a pre-connected, this is called a blitz force, and it's 500 gallons a minute with a single line. It's pre-connected. You pull this off, it's got legs on it, can be opened up like a little deck gun, and just turn it on. Of course, it's using 500 gallons a minute, so you've got to have more than the water on this before you start using this very long. We carry, up here, we carry 1,000 feet of 4-inch hose and more 2.5. Moving down, this is a 2005. It carries 2,000 gallons of water. It has a 1,000 gallon a minute pump. And this is the second engine out on building fires. And its job is to supply water to this right away. And then if we have a dump tank, then it can be pulled out of that and used in the tanker shuttle as well.
The dump tank's on that side of that?
No, that's a different one. There's no dump tank on this one. This one also carries supply hose. You want to pull this out so we can see the rest of the stuff a little better, please? It's, the only thing this is short on is ladders. The only ladder it's got is up there. But we've got plenty of ladders. The ladders on this one are carried inside. Well, there's 2 ways you can do that. You can have a CDL, which allows you to drive them, or you can take a course called EVOC, Emergency Vehicle Operation Certification, and then you don't have to change your license, you just have to have that certification.
CDL you have to renew all the time?
The EVOC is every 3 years. Yeah.
CDL, once you have it?
Once you have it, unless you do something wrong, you don't lose it, so. Come on over, folks. Oh yeah, this is our new rescue boat. It's a 16-footer, but it's designed for a rescue boat. It's not designed to be rescuing like out of a fishing boat. The other one was great for a number of years, but it'd be scary if you had to stand up in that or pull somebody over the side. This one, you can line people up on one side, stand them up and down, jump up and down. It's just as stable as it is right here. And we've tried this. The motor is a jet motor. It's not a prop. So it can run in very, very shallow water, maybe this much water, as long as you keep moving. But this is the one that was also purchased with a grant.
It could be a good fishing boat.
Well, it could be a good fishing boat, but it's a great rescue boat. And this is our rescue trailer. It's going to be hard to see this one, but inside here, can we slide that over a little bit? Okay. That's the snowbalance, we call, so-called snowbalance. And right now it's on wheels and there's a four-wheeler in there. In the winter, pretty soon we'll be putting the skis on there and the sled will go in the trailer. And so we'll be set up for snowmobile rescue. Right now we're set up for four-wheeler rescue. Four-wheeler rescue isn't as big an issue because very often an ambulance or something can drive close to the patient. But on a snow sled trail, there's no ambulance going down the snow sled trail, so. And then this is our new squad. Back here, we've got a hose on a reel. We've got hose up here that's pre-connected. We've got a pump, and then there's a tank in here also. And it's set up for brush fires. We've got 4 firefighting tools, more of it that'll go on there, including the backpacks. But now the backpacks are canvas. They're not the old steel ones. You've seen those, right? And a lot easier to manage. They go on more like just a loose thing on your back rather than that big rigid. You gonna get one? So everything, this is all, and the fuel for this pump comes out of the chassis tank, so we don't have to worry about running out of fuel. Well, you could run out, but it's less likely. Go ahead, yeah, hook that right up.
That's what the new ones are.
That's a lot better.
Yeah.
Fill it right out of the
I
truck.
mean, it's still got 5 gallons of water in it, but it's much friendlier than the.
A lot easier when it's empty.
Yeah.
Instead of having to.
Well,
drive-
Oh, yeah,
We
yeah.
filled them right out of the river a couple of months ago. We had
Yeah,
the river caught on fire. Someone.
Not the river,
Oh,
but
the river
somebody
bank,
set
come on.
a couple of fires next to the river. And well, let's pull this one out now. Who's doing that, Glenn? This one? No, but you know, we used to have like a dozen chimney fires a year. For the last 2, we have 1 each year. I don't know what's going on. Okay, we've only got 2 more rigs to talk about. This is the ladder truck. It's called a tower ladder because it has a bucket on the end. It also can be climbed like a regular aerial ladder. So if somebody's working up there and they need to leave or get some tools, they can come down the ladder and then they can walk back up. It also carries a whole bunch of ground ladders, as we call them, portable ladders. On this side, there's a 16 and an 18-foot roof ladder, then there's a 30-foot ground ladder and a 40-foot ground ladder. On the other side, there's supposed to be a 35-foot 2-section ladder, but it's damaged, but the replacement's on its way. It also has a pump, and it will pump 1,250 gallons a minute, but only carries a small amount of water. It carries 300 gallons of water. It's not designed to carry water, obviously.
Are you plumbed? Are you plumbed all the way up?
There's a waterway on this, so all you have to do is put water into the pump, and you don't make any other connections. You just turn a valve, and you got 2 guns at the top that you can direct streams with. But it's hungry. It'll put out 1,500 gallons a minute at the top. So you have to watch what you're doing. And like Alan will tell you, if you're not putting the water on the fire or just letting it run off somewhere, you're just wasting it. So you have to, with this and anything, we just have to be, when we have a limited supply of water, we have to be very careful about getting it in the right place. And it doesn't always happen because you can't see sometimes because of the smoke, but we try very hard to do that, to conserve our water and get it in the right place. And the last engine in the other bay is the same as the one that pulled out. I know I am. It's my fault too. Everybody says it's my fault. The one that's pulled out the big engine, that was bought in 1999. It's basically a 1999 version of that one. 2 of these rigs, the one that's parked out there and that engine, have what's called compressed air foam. That's for fighting Class A, which is ordinary materials fires, not petrochemical or anything like that. But it increases the efficiency of the water, so theoretically, here again, theoretically, you should be able to put out a certain amount of fire with less water than if you did without that. Again, it's just where you're putting the water.
Now, Ed, if this is hooked up to a hydrant, do you have any reserve left in your water line? downtown?
No. In other words, whatever we have from that tank on the hill is all we've got.
No, but you can't pump anything else. You can't hook up another truck to another hydrant.
Yeah,
This
we
one here
could.
taking the whole supply.
Well, it might, but no, it wouldn't, no. Not necessarily, because you run one gun at 750.
I don't think we've ever pumped out
No.
with this anyway.
No, we never have. We've always been out of dump tanks and stuff with this. And, well, we did in training, though, when we burned the house up next to the KFC with a hydrant there, so we had it hooked up to that.
I think we're the only department north of Bangor that has a tower ladder, right?
Yes, yes. There are aerial ladders. Madawaska has a regular aerial, and Van Buren, and Ashland, but they don't have this style. And I particularly like this because I think it's the safest for the firefighters.
We can work out of it a lot better.
Yeah, and we used it on, I can't remember how many chimney fires. Obviously, we still have to be able to put up the ground ladders because we can't always position if the chimney's at the rear of the house or something. But it so happened in the last 15 or 20 chimney fires we've had, we've been able to reach it with this.
It's very useful.
Yeah. And just bring all your stuff with you, instead of having to climb, and then two people can work on the end of it instead of just one. Any ground ladder, somebody's holding the stuff, and it's doable, and we still train to do that because we can't depend on this being able to get in and be there. But if we can, we use this.
Not to mention it's required now by law that we have to wear an air pack anytime there's a chimney fire.
Yeah, that's another
So
road.
it's a lot easier to work out of
Even outside on the roof, you got to have the air pack on. And I tell guys, do this because it's for your safety. Car fires, air pack. Who ever heard of such a thing? When I started, I didn't wear air packs in the buildings either, but what happened, we had a car fire on the St. John Road, a pickup actually. The guy in the nozzle said, "That's put everything on?" I said, "Yes, everything." The first thing that happened when he opened the nozzle, he hit a piece of magnesium or something in the front seat. You know how the alloys are on the cars? And sparks came out of that thing right at him and burned holes in his turnout gear. Luckily, it didn't hit the face, but it had that. If he didn't have a mask on.
Phosphorus rounds.
Yeah, phosphorus, it's the same kind of thing, yes, yeah.
I've been blind.
And so luckily he didn't get hurt. We had to send his gear out for repair to fix the holes, and we had to send it to a certified place now because you can't just take it to the seamstress around the corner and have her sew it up. Everything has to be
Documented.
but it's all in the
Filling up on the air.
Yes, we are, yes, yeah. And that's useful for washing the floors and other stuff. We got a garden hose connection on that one now. So we're very proud of our equipment here, and we've done very well. I'm very proud of our members, and
I got an assortment of equipment.
yeah, we've got the best equipment north of Presque Isle or Caribou, for sure. And those departments, of course, are bigger towns because they've got very nice equipment also. But we've got the best other than that. And we'll be a while before we see any more new equipment, though. And that's okay.
Eliminated the hoses because of the way they are on the vehicle.
Oh, yeah. Well, those, I don't know if this system could be adapted to that, but now a lot of those, it's the same thing, the cancer stuff with the fumes and stuff, so. Oh, Lucian, thank you for coming. Nice to see you.
See you on the hill.
Bedtime,
On
Lucian.
the hill.
Bedtime, Lucian. Take care.
Good job.
No, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for coming. Yeah, I'm fine. No, I'm not.
Good to see you. I'm glad you could make it. Thank you.
Thank you.
He's the oldest living fireman right
Oh,
now.
are you? Oh,
Just about.
93 years old.
Between him and Ken is a little younger.
No, Ken's 90. He's older than Ken.
How old you say?
I said 93.